Well, gun control works. Just ask Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, or no, maybe Winston Churchill or some of those other dictators along the way in history. Have people even really waken up to what's going on here? Yes, we have tragedies. Yes, we need to do something about it. But no, we do not need to restrict our freedoms and our rights or take them away or our guns. Mao Zedong. It's now known, if you didn't know, look it up, that we, as in America, or our government, I should say, for lack of a better term, put Mao Zedong in power. And then we supplied him with weapons, much like we do the rest of the planet. And do you know what he did with those weapons? Do you know what he did to his people? Do we know why he did what he did? Do you know why I said or included him in Mao Zedong? You know, all the great leaders, there's the t-shirt out there from InfoWars. They believe gun control works. Of course they do. When you have millions and millions of people in your country, and you happen to be a dictator, or the government wants to do contrary to what the people want, which shouldn't be because people put the government in power to help them, and we pay their salaries. This man not only took the weapons from the people in China, but he then in turn used most of those weapons to kill those people. And what could they do about it? They just took all your guns. That's why close to 64 million, we'll say what, I think it was 63 million people, record states, you can look it up, somewhere in that ballpark, between 62 and 64 million people died under Mao Zedong. Yes, gun control works. For the bad guys, much like it does in situations like Colorado and Sandy Hook and any other place that hasn't even happened yet, and God forbid won't. One thing you gotta understand is when you restrict the freedoms of the people who are law-abiding, everyday, ordinary, good citizens, we're now not only endangering the people that own the weapons, but the people that they could be saving with them. Because you gotta remember one thing, and that is that any bad guy, regardless of any gun law that you can put on the books in Connecticut, of all places, was pretty strict. Right next door to New York, which is pretty, probably more strict than Connecticut, but they're both right up there. Uh, they're so strict, and yet look what happened. A person got their hands on weapons, and it's simply because they weren't secured properly, regardless of mental status of any person, yada yada yada. Any responsible gun owner knows, just like myself, secure these weapons in spots where maybe sometimes only you know where they are. But not just that, always keep the safety on if it has a safety. Or if you have trigger locks, or any type of gun lock. If you have a trigger lock on, the best you can do with a gun is throw it at someone. You could load it up all day long with a trigger lock. You still can't pull the trigger. Why are people doing this and being held accountable for the wrongs that they're doing? Why do law-abiding citizens have to pay for what the few dumbasses of the world do in these screams for attention? And then the news goes on tirades about it and makes it, you know, not saying it's bigger than it is, but sensationalizes it, I guess would be a better word for lack of a better term, so that people like falling in love with this story of like tragedy and that we literally need to be pushed over a cliff of feeling so bad with regret that this happened to these poor children. And let's not forget, barring, if we didn't even say the children, pretend this didn't even happen. Throughout the year, there were several other gun incidents and adults died, and it seems like we didn't care about it up until this event. And now that we do care about it, everybody's jumping off the cliff with the media saying, oh yeah, well, we got to just totally rip ourselves off. And then they're sitting there. It's like these people are sucking their thumbs. They are literally dumbed down. They listen to what every media outlet has to say, every government outlet has to say. People, stop watching the TV. We have a huge problem in this country. We're about to go off the fiscal cliff. We have the Republicans, as Jesse Ventura would say, and the Democrats driving the hell bus with us on it over the damn cliff. With the fiscal cliff coming up, we have 10 days. And where did they go? Well, the president's Hawaii, George Bush's vacation with his, parents in Texas. The Congress is in recess, Senate's in recess. And where are we? We're about to tank the economy while our taxes are going up. And we're paying them to do this, to give us an anxiety attack on where are we going to get hit next. Our wallets. And then they're going to scare us to death with that. And then they're going to tell us that every time we turn around, we're going to get shot at. Well, here's an idea. Call up every congressman, senator you know. Tell them you want that issue fixed with that fiscal cliff. We want redress of grievance to every state in the country. And 3, we want open gun laws. And it's not really open, but to the extent that we have what we have now, which is working fine. If you look at every statistic, the violent crime rate involving guns and murder is lower in the places where the gun laws are more free or less restricted. The incidents, the major incidents, happen where no one can do anything about them, where they are restricted, because a bad guy will always get a gun regardless of the law. They're there to break the law. What don't people get? It gets so discouraging. I watch Alex Jones because regardless of him going off on a tangent, because he's just very caring of what he does and the people of the country and the laws and our freedoms. He trails off a little bit, but the passion's there. And I watch that because media nowadays I don't watch very much of. It's lies and sensationalizing things like this recent tragedy. People, we need to watch what we're doing. We need to listen to the facts. Banning semi-automatics for law-abiding citizens is not going to help our country be any safer, or your kids be any safer, or your families be any safer, or you be any safer. It's restricting our laws, our freedoms, our rights. It's restricting our ability to protect ourselves. And all you sheeple who are showing up to these NRA conferences in opposition saying they have blood on their hands, no, they don't. You know who has blood on their hands? Them damn lawmakers that we send to Capitol Hill that are out there lobbying with fat cats, and bankers who don't enforce these laws. The laws we already have, which would have made it this country a hell of a lot safer. Up here in New Hampshire, we have virtually an open gun law. We're next door in Vermont. You don't hear of barely any of these things happening up here. Maine, they're kind of strict, but Mass is very strict, but they have a lot of crime down there because, again, they're in a restricted area, very restricted with guns and Mass. And if you all look at the statistics instead of jumping to conclusions because some guy like Pierce Morgan's on there afraid of a 22, which is what an AR is basically, it's a glorified 22. Again, I have compact handguns that are more powerful than the AR. So because the AR is not wood grain and it's less aesthetic to the eye and it's darker and beefier looking, it's scarier looking, I guess, which is what the argument is, then we're just more or less scared of it, which is what Pierce Morgan is getting at, but he won't say. Pierce, go back to your own country. People wake up, look at the facts. The facts are there. We need to keep our freedoms the way they are and enforce them and protect them and not allow these people to change anything when it comes down to our Second Amendment rights. We need to stand up for them. What was it the Japanese said? They said, oh, we could never invade America. And the guy says to the general, why is that? And he goes, well, because, and I'm not talking about the army, if we went over there, there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. We should be proud of that. No one wants to mess with us. That means we're safe. We're safe. Think about it. No one wants to mess with a good guy with a gun. Because a good guy will always prevail over the bad guy. Remember, good eventually prevails over evil. But neither one of them will ever be gone. Thanks and stay awake.